Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am beyond excited because today we have with us David Swope, the president of the Better Business Bureau. Welcome, David.
Hey, Andrew, thank you for having me. I always love talking with you.
Absolutely. So let's get talking. So let's start with the hardest question of all that I have today. Can you share a little bit about your background and what led you to your role as the president of the BBB?
Absolutely. I had a retail business for several years. We were members of the Better Business Bureau. I also was a realtor before I took over this position. And a lot of sales professionals have trouble, of course, with reputation, right? And real estate has one of the worst reputations. So I joined the board of directors. I was on the board of directors for 7 years. Then our president decided that he would like to retire, and the position became open. And I thought, gosh, I would really like to see if I could make a difference here. And so that's really how I got involved. Is I understand reputation building for businesses is extremely important.
No, it's very important, right? Anytime, one of those things I always like to share too, even just when you think about brand loyalty, reputation's a whole part of that. I feel like a lot of times we make our decisions on the cars we purchase or even the type of technology we own just based off of the reputation of the company. And that's where we give our loyalty to. And so, with that being said, you've mentioned that quite a bit. So, what I'm curious about is let's dig a little bit deeper. So, how does the BBB support businesses, both small and large, in strengthening their reputation on building consumer confidence?
Great question. It's the number one thing that we've been doing for 113 years is we actually vet businesses. We collect information, do investigations. So a lot of times when you'll go on Google or you'll use other search engines, you'll be looking at basically opinions. We're also called reviews. We actually verify all our data. So when you go to bbb.org and you search for information on a business, that's actually verified information. We use a whole variety of tools to do that. But a lot of times our accredited businesses actually volunteer the business and make volunteer the information and make a commitment up front to answer complaints, to provide, proper information, to operate with proper licenses and actually to follow through on the promises that they make. And we actually check them on a biannual basis, every business. So even when you come in and we first do a background check, we still continue to do those checks every time that there's either a complaint, an inquiry, but we mandatorily do it every 2 years where we actually completely revet the business. So our information is not opinions, it's actually fact-based.
Oh, excellent. And so, from your perspective, what are some of the biggest challenges that businesses face today in maintaining trust, transparency, and ethical practices?
Well, I think that's probably the best question, because when you look at facts, and I use facts, because quite often people go, "Oh, how do you get information about a business?" Well, I Google them, right? We use the internet. There's so much information on the internet, but that information, like say a review, that's a person's opinion. How do you know what the person knows about that business other than their own personal experience? And we all know social media has completely changed the landscape, right? Because people can complain about your business, whether it's right or wrong, or whether it really has any value, and there's no repercussion. With the Better Business Bureau, we actually mediate. So if somebody has a complaint, we actually ask them to put them in writing and make a formal request for an offset on their invoice, or if they just feel like the customer service was terrible, we reach out to the business and we communicate with the business. And so we actually try and represent both sides equally. And we feel that's the most fair. And I think that that's one of the biggest challenges with businesses today is they have no recourse when somebody complains about their business. Somebody has a gripe, and what's the first thing they do? They jump on Yelp, they jump on, Google, they jump on Facebook, and they say these things about a business and they may not even be completely accurate with the information. So I think that that's the number one struggle that businesses have. And it's just, as the information highway continues to grow and grow and grow, and AI is changing the whole dynamics on things, it continues to be tough for businesses to be able to stand true to their ethics and actually show transparency. And the best way to do that, of course, is to be accredited with the Better Business Bureau. And we do as much as we can to promote. If you're looking to do business with somebody, check their record on bbb.org.
No, I'm happy you shared a lot of that because, you know, when I was first learning about the BBB, and I'm sure a lot of people are with me here, if they don't really understand too much about the BBB, we just associate, hey, we see the sticker on the business, so they're trusted. We can go and look up a series of reviews. But what's been really surprising to me is just the amount of services that you offer to small business owners and large business owners, anyone who pretty much is accredited under it. And if they need any assistance, you're there to assist them. That's one thing that's been really awesome to see. And even just the workshops you provide and just resources that are available is amazing. It's a lot of stuff that I didn't really know that you all provided, which is getting me really excited about our partnership, which we can talk about a little bit later. But when working one-on-one with businesses, what are some areas that you most often see them needing guidance in? And how does the BBB help them improve?
Well, number one, we do a lot with businesses that are required to have a license. So the regulatory commissions sometimes are hard to get a hold of and are hard to communicate with. And so one of the things that we do is we track, of course, businesses' license. We like to let them know 45 days in advance of when their license is going to expire, because sometimes, we have businesses, it's like, oh my gosh, I just renewed last, like 2 months ago. And it's like, well, no, it's actually been a year now. And we don't want anybody doing business without a license or having their license lapse. So a lot of times, we're just a resource here to let them know the things that, they're obligated to keep. If you're selling cars, you need to have, a license. If you're a doctor or a practitioner, there's a different type of license, and it can be very confusing. And quite often the licenses change. And so sometimes we're actually the point of information to let them know, hey, you're now actually required to have a license to do that service. And so we don't reach out and try and punish them about them, but we try and actually help them so they can stay in compliance. Because that's the number one thing is, there are so many businesses. We have 3,000 accredited businesses with the Better Business Bureau, and they pride themselves on doing it the right way. And yet they never go out of their way to be like, hey, look how important we are because, we pay our bills on time, or we follow the rules. I mean, that almost seems like, well, how is that exciting? But as a consumer, you don't want excitement in your transaction. You want it to go smoothly. You don't want it to tumble and all of a sudden the business goes out of business because, they weren't properly managing it. And so I think that a lot of times that's some of the things that we do. We're here to try and help answer those questions. We're here to help mediate. Even, we try to stay in close contact with the regulatory commissions. And there's a lot to that. You'd be surprised. It's just the number of licenses that, most businesses are required to have, including continuing education. I'm really excited to talk more about what our relationship has been able to actually add to, because think about the complexity of the world that we work in now. Being able to have our accredited businesses have a platform with New Mexico State to be able to learn some of the changes in industries. Heck, you had a 1099 class that was amazing to me. What is the impact, one, of the business of having 1099 employees, or what is the impact to the employee? What do they need to know? Are they properly being covered with 1099? And there's so many complexities that just because I'm good at my craft doesn't mean that I'm good at everything else. And so to be able to be part of the team and part of the solution is what keeps me coming here every day and excited every day to see how I can help make a difference in somebody's business.
No, excellent, David. And so, what I'm curious about too, I'm sure you probably have a long list of different stories, but can you share a success story where a business improved its standing or operations significantly after engaging with you and your team?
Yeah, and of course, we can't share specific names of who the business was or anything like that, but it is very satisfying when we reach out on a business's behalf, with the regulatory commission, and get to the bottom or get to a misunderstanding. Sometimes something as simple as how you advertise something, what the language is that you use in your marketing can affect an interpretation, right? And so being able to help customers, and clients specifically be able to address those. We do also do a lot of stuff with advertising support and YouTube support. I mean, you've been in our studio. I mean, we have a wonderful podcast studio. We have a way to do videos. So there's a lot of different things that we can offer as services and guidance on how to place ads, on Google, and being able to brand with your accreditation with the BPP. So there's so many satisfying stories of being able to help customers find a business. As you know, I mean, 53% of the businesses in the state of New Mexico are small businesses of 5 employees or less. So how can they be able to leverage their ability to compete against bigger businesses? Well, BBB.org is the ultimate equalizer, because all of them, get to present their information in the same type of format in a business profile. So as you mentioned, it's almost the numbers have gotten so big that it's more satisfying to realize I can help more people than I can't help. It's very rare that there's not something that we could do with somebody's business profile to not help them.
No, absolutely. And I love too that you mentioned just the percentage of small business owners. And even too, after talking with small business owners, some of them actually have just inherited the businesses sometimes from their family, and they're just taking over, and they don't necessarily possess certain skill sets or have certain knowledge on things. So a lot of times they're looking to work with groups like yourselves and attend workshops to educate them on things like you had mentioned when hiring contractor to their organization. And so it brings me to my next question, which is something I'm really excited about. So, NMSU Global Campus and the Better Business Bureau are actually partnering on new ways of how we can provide skill acquisition to businesses across New Mexico. And one of the exciting pieces of this is that there's going to be multiple ways that we're going to collaborate. We're going to have lunch and learns, online trainings, asynchronous trainings, which means any type of coursework that you can go on at your own time. You can be in your pajamas at 10 p.m. and you can learn some new skills and jump into an online course. It's really exciting stuff, the things that we're working on. So, from your perspective, David, why are skill building programs like these so important for today's small business owners, and how do they help strengthen trust and success in the marketplace?
Well, I think that the more that you know, the more that you learn, the more skills you have to adapt. And in today's competitive market, I mean, adaptation is extremely important. The market trends change. Heck, right now with tariffs affecting, how price levels are changing. Sometimes you have to find a different product, to sell, or a different resource within whatever you're manufacturing, because a tariff has now affected you. So there's a lot of things that are involved, but building skills is the number one thing. My dad told me a long time ago. He said, Dave, if you ever want to do anything and to grow within a business, you need to learn how to communicate with people. You need to learn how to manage people. And you can be the best architect in the world, but if you don't know how to manage a team, if you don't know how, if you don't have an HR professional, if you don't have, and so how do you gain these skills? A lot of us, you didn't go to college just to finish and never go back to school. I mean, those that excel in life continue to learn, and they want to learn from people who are experts at it. And what a better way with an accredited organization, institution such as, New Mexico State. And you guys are very innovative, almost out front on being able to provide things, like you said, 10 o'clock at night in your pajamas. You need to know that information. How can you get it? How can you get it from professionals? And I think that's what we appreciate most about our relationship, is the fact that we're able to give people that information wherever they are and however they want to access it. And I think it's a benefit for businesses as well, because they need to always be advancing the skill set of their employees. Because if not, your competitor is going to get them away from you. So you've got to be competitive. And it's just another thing that becomes as a benefit for being an accredited businesses is we actually have a discount on those trainings. And so when you look at, well, what's the value in my accreditation, or why am I a member? That's just one of many keys that you can leverage in order to get more resources for your business without a big outlay of cost.
Yep, absolutely. And one of the things too that we keep on mentioning is that accessibility piece. So the unique thing too about all of this opportunity for skill acquisition is it's entirely online, and it's accessible for people in all areas of New Mexico, which what makes things very exciting. So my next question for you is, how does the BBB provide accessible support and resources to businesses across New Mexico, especially those operating remotely or in rural communities?
Well, it's a great question. And of course, we have a tremendous coverage area. We're one of the few Better Business Bureaus that cover an entire state. A lot of times you'll have, service areas that are more around a population center. So you might have actually multiple states, that's in an economic hub. In New Mexico, the diversity, and we also represent 10 counties in Southwest Colorado. The major customer base or client base for us in those two areas, about 3 million people. And a lot of it is rural. And you're absolutely right. How do we get the information to them? All the better to be involved with a remote education opportunity like in New Mexico State Global, because it doesn't also, as long as you have internet, you have the opportunity to have the skills. We have quite a few businesses that are BBB accredited businesses in small towns. In small towns, I mean, you've got a lot more where everybody seems to kind of know what everybody's doing, but you still have that verification factor. You move into a community and you want to find out who to do business with. BBB.org gives you that. So the internet has totally changed the game on the ability to offer world-class education and world-class services, including services from the BBB. Even if you're in a rural community, you're still a part of the BBB family.
Oh, excellent. And so this is some other exciting questions I have, and I think people would find it interesting coming from you. So what are some trends that you're seeing right now? Consumer behavior, scams, technology, or workforce shifts that businesses should be paying attention to?
Well, I mean, number one, cybersecurity. Cybersecurity and property security are probably, two of the biggest issues facing businesses. Of course, you got email scams, you got imposter scams. So you got employee imposter scams that are happening on email, like, hey, I'm the CEO. I need you to go and transfer money or wire transfer money. And so just being aware of all of your potential exposure is probably the number one. Tech scams, different things like that are affecting your employees, that are affecting their ability to get to work, that are affecting their productivity. They're getting concerned. I mean, there's a ton of scams on hiring right now, to where, people are being offered these remote jobs, right? And they totally take your money, and they never send you the materials, and you never really get the job. And so all of those things that are impacting individuals also impact their work life, because they're having to deal with, all of a sudden their checking account got hacked, and so a lot of businesses really need to be checking their protocols. On our board, we actually have a committee that specifically is working on cybersecurity and is working on things that are impacting businesses. And that committee itself puts out a podcast every month. The information is tremendous. As a matter of fact, when I first met with Rick and his team, I realized there were certain exposures at the BBB. There's some things that we needed to tighten up in our protocols. And so I would have to say that, ransom scams are also another thing. It doesn't matter how big you are. A ransom scam can shut everything down. And now your productivity is lost. So I'd have to say that my biggest would be cybersecurity. Doesn't matter what size you are, that is definitely affecting businesses.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You hear horror stories all the time. It's always in the news about different types of cyber attacks. And now with the use of generative AI, where people are able to even record and voices that they can hear off of computers and replicate them and make robocalls. And it's just getting insane. So you're right, spot on by making sure that your workforce and yourself are trained on cyber scams that are actually going on. And I'm also happy too. You mentioned the application thing with the fake jobs. I recently had a conversation with someone who was looking into work, and they had asked me, they're like, "Have you ever seen like an application that looks like this?" And it was asking them for things in their application, like their social security number, all these things like right out the gate that you typically don't put when you're applying for certain positions. And so that was already a red flag right there. And, sure enough, they did a search and they found out on Reddit that it's a scam that's going around. It's a fake job posting. So I'm happy that you did share that. And we'll definitely put a plug to tune into your cybersecurity podcast because it has been awesome. And so my next question for you is, this is coming from some advice from you. And one of the great things about working with you is you always throwing in little knowledge nuggets here and there of things sometimes that your father taught you or things you've learned. And it's something that always sticks to me sometimes when I'm having conversations with you. And I can tell you some of the quotes later on that I've gathered even quick from the few times that we've interacted together. So whether someone is a student preparing for their career or small business owner working to grow their company, what is one piece of advice you believe makes the biggest difference in building their long-term success?
Well, I think that's a great question, and I probably will not fall back on something my father said or another family member, but the number one thing is to just be prepared. Be ready to make a career change. Be ready to add to your skill set. It's never too late to learn something. It's never too late to try something new. And I think that as time goes on and as technology evolves, we have to be more open to how can we embrace the changes in technology. And the best way to do that is through education, and constantly trying to keep yourself more aware of what's going on. I mean, I know it's a busy world and I know it's a busy time and it's hard to fit that in, but it's so much more convenient to fit it in. It can meet you where you are to get that information. And so I'd have to say that the number one thing is to just listen to those that you can learn from. If there's something there that you can use, I mean, put it in your toolbox. The best thing is to have enough tools in that toolbox that you can work on any project. And so I would encourage people to just constantly be questioning and learning. And when you do that, you'll find some of the most amazing people like yourself and many of my board members. I have learned so much more from them than I feel I could ever teach them. And so I just try and show my appreciation as well. That's another thing. I mean, just live from a point of appreciation. And I think things will always work out. Because I'll admit, I never thought I was going to be sitting in this chair. This was not my plan. But when the opportunity came, I really felt the value of what I feel like I can contribute. And so I was in a position to be able to make this change. And so be open to the fact that you may not be completely sure what your path is, but as long as you're prepared, you can always, make a change.
No, that's great advice. Thank you for sharing that, David. And so now let's look into the future. So, what excites you most about the future of the Better Business Bureau of New Mexico? And how do you see your work continuing to support the growth and integrity of businesses across the state?
Well, I am super excited. 2026, we have a lot of lofty goals here, but I think that they're all attainable. We have the privilege of working for our accredited businesses. As a not-for-profit organization, every dollar that we bring in, we can put into more benefit. And that excites me more than anything because it's then we can offer more classes. We can offer more lunch and learns. We can offer more networking opportunities. I mean, networking with people, quality people, people that make a commitment to integrity and trust. Who you surround yourself with. These are very important things, but it's almost limitless as to what we could do. My board is really excited to work on a lot of new projects this year. And the more things that we can offer businesses, the more value we can bring, is the most exciting part. Is there's almost nothing we can't do, as long as we have all the right partners, and we consider New Mexico State Global one of those partners. And so we're always looking to be able to add partnerships that bring value to our members. And as long as we're doing that and we're continuing to grow, there's nothing but good things ahead.
Absolutely. And so before we cap off things, is there anything else you would like to share today, David?
Well, if you're not familiar with the Better Business Bureau, I would invite you to go to bbb.org, learn more about it. We're not just a place that you go to complain. A lot of people think that that's what we do, and we do that, and we do that very well. By the way, we're not a government agency. That's another thing that is a misconception. I think that they see the bureau at the end of the name, and they think that means we get no federal money, we get no state money, no local money. This is all at the behest of our 3,000 plus accredited businesses. So we invite you to join us in our commitment to continue to move forward, based on trust and integrity. And all the information is available at bbb.org. And we'd love to have any business join with us and help us just add more value to all of our programs and services.